and welcome to the radio show, to episode 3.
Yes,
and,
happy Friday.
Happy Friday. This
happy
is actually
weekend.
I know it's the best time,
Woohoo.
the best time of year, but I think that'd be Christmas. I think it's that song.
The best time of year that comes around 52 times a year.
Yeah. Well, this was supposed to be live, but our internet speed here is not good.
Anybody who is a practice member here knows we have no internet.
And when you walk in this building, you're denied access to the outside world.
Part of our plan to help you detach.
Yeah, we get rid of those.
No, really, we just have terrible internet.
We do have terrible. Anyway, so we're recording this, but maybe in the future we'll be live, but we're very excited. So yes, welcome back. And if you haven't had a chance yet, if you're a new listener or a new subscriber, I recommend that you listen to our first episode, 1 or 2. And why should they do that?
Well, it was awesome.
Yeah,
obviously.
number 1. Not because of me, because of her.
It was fantastic. No, we talked about a whole bunch of really awesome stuff in the first 2 episodes. So episode 1, we really broke down kind of our story of how we got into the field of chiropractic, which is just kind of cool to know, kind of, how
because we know anything about
find
it.
you. Yeah, we knew nothing about it at the time, and it found us. And then in episode 2, we really broke down the history behind chiropractic, which is just really great to be able to kind of understand how the field even came about, how the profession was developed, and what chiropractic is at the source. We talked a lot about the nervous system, how the nervous system controls everything in the body, and how when the bones in the spine shift out of alignment and put pressure on the nerves, the brain can't get the messages where they need to go. That's what we call subluxation.
Yep.
In principled chiropractic is correcting the root cause, so correcting that subluxation at the source.
Yep. Correcting primary subluxation with very gentle, specific adjustments to allow your brain to heal properly.
Yes. Woo, chiropractic.
Yes, yeah, for the win. But today we're going to talk about torque release technique specifically, why it's the bomb.com, and specifically what it is, and kind of dive into that.
Yeah, which if you're not familiar with, torque release technique is the technique that we do
that here
in our office.
Yes, we do that here.
So if you're not familiar with chiropractic, that probably sounded like a weird foreign thing, and you're like, what are they going to actually talk about? Yeah. But it is a specific chiropractic technique, and it's the technique that we do here in our office.
Short TRT.
Yes.
I like saying TRT.
Yeah.
It's quick. Or TERT. No, we'll go with TRT.
Yeah, I think stick with that.
No, don't say that. Okay, cool. So our little personal story with TRT. So when I went to school again, I didn't know anything about chiropractic, and actually my first adjustment was in something called the student clinic, and it's where we as students, after getting about halfway through of chiropractic school, would go in and would adjust each other. So the first adjustment that I ever received was by another student, and it was amazing. And I remember walking in, laying down, and I didn't know why, but I knew that this was going to be amazing, and something was going to happen. Oh man, you're putting me on the spot now. It was I
was going to say you could give him a shout out if you don't remember.
I'm going to have to go. Yeah, I'm going to have to check some files.
I thought maybe it was Diana.
No, it wasn't. Diana was actually my second. My second. But anyway, so I got the first ever adjustment, and I just remember walking out of there being like, Power on. And it's so, if you have not been adjusted, it's so hard to explain. It's like when you take a picture, if like you're out in, like, I don't know, somewhere like really cool, like your favorite place, and you try to take a picture of it, but you can't fully capture that moment.
And then you look at the picture and you're like,
ugh, this is not as cool. And but you want people to understand it. It's the same concept. Once you get adjusted, your power is on. And I remember that moment. I was like, wow. Like, this is amazing. And
you were how far into school before that even happened?
No, I just started. It was like first.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, we do a quarter system. It was like first or second quarter. Okay. But it was amazing, and I would continue to get adjusted that way. And I wasn't, and the way that the school is set up is that you learn what's called full spine technique. It's a great technique. All chiropractic techniques are great, or diversified, and that's the basis that you learn on. And that's what a lot of times you see traditional chiropractic is, and it's great.
What most people think of when they think of you lay on the table, the
cracking,
twisting, the popping, and the cracking, the traditional chiropractic.
And it felt great. And it was a big blessing. I went to Life University. They have there's amazing techniques there, all subluxation based. It's awesome. And I remember the first time being introduced to torque release technique, and I remember thinking like, okay, so there's an instrument and it's an adjustment.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't get like cracked anymore.
Yeah.
Like, that's not chiropractic.
Right.
Like, and
because the biggest thing about torque release technique is that it's not manual chiropractic. So it's not the twisting, popping,
which
cracking.
we think, like you said, like we think of.
Right. And which we think is necessary in order to get the chiropractic
You're like, oh, it's
adjustment.
only an adjustment if there's air or I feel like that pop. And that's just not true.
Yeah.
And that was my impression. And I remember getting adjusted by it and then going to a seminar. But I remember after the first couple, and not just a couple adjustments, like being under care with it it's a big difference. But I remember, because since it's neurologically based and we talked about that, we're going to dive into that, but so different. So different because it's dealing directly with your neurology, not just breaking up fixations, but dealing directly with your nervous system and getting true correction in there. And I was sold immediately. And I think you had a similar experience.
Yeah, I mean, because when you first started adjusting me as a student, when you were learning, which sometimes would leave me being like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Because, you're learning.
So. You have to just try, right, at the beginning.
And I was your guinea pig. I was happy to be your guinea pig.
Yes, you were.
But I remember I used to love the feeling of the pop and of the crack.
And I remember telling you about it. And you were like, you're not going to adjust me.
Yeah.
And you were so upset.
Yeah.
I was like, just believe me. Trust me. Just let's try it.
Yeah. And after a few adjustments, there was a drastic difference and a shift in my results.
Oh yeah.
Because I was getting some results with the manual chiropractic, but a lot of the things that I had been suffering from for a really long time were still around. And then with torque release technique, it was like a game changer.
Yeah, and consistently, and very consistent. And I remember, I'll never forget that day when you were like, I want you to only do TRT.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And the second you said, I was like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
And we talked about in our first podcast, you gotta listen to that. The importance of that and why we did that.
Yeah.
But yes, torque release is the bomb. It changed our lives. It's changing our lives still. And we're going to break that down a little bit, what that looks like.
Yeah.
So what torque release technique is what it was intended to be. And we talked about on episode 2 is that D.D. Palmer discovered chiropractic on tone. I actually want to read this quote that he wrote down in his first book that he ever wrote. And it says, life is an expression of tone. The cause of disease is any variation in tone. I mean, it's literally that simple. It's that simple. And what torque release technique is, it was born out of research investigation, right? Purely research, right? As an improvement, as an upgrade to the system for all chiropractic to benefit mankind.
Yeah.
Period. It wasn't be like, oh my gosh, like this is the new technique. It's the best technique. No. It's an upgrade to take the best existing to make it better. It's like a software upgrade on your computer.
And I think that's the biggest thing that, when I get the question a lot in our office of why do you choose to do torque release technique? I say, for 2 reasons. Number 1, because there's so much research to back this technique. And number 2, because it's an upgrade to the system. Yeah.
And that's the cool thing is it was like the model of torque release technique. Maybe I should just go back to TRT. Yeah,
if we say TRT.
TRT. I'm going to go to TRT. But the model of TRT, right? And then the technique of TRT. They were actually strictly designed for a research study. It wasn't even intended to be a technique, but it was the model and the results that they found. People were like, you have to make this a technique because it's the next thing. It's the second generation chiropractic, if you will.
And the big difference is between, kind of like you hit on just a little bit, is the difference between fixation and
versus primary subluxation. Yes. Yep, exactly correct.
Do you want to kind of just give us a little information about what those 2 differences might be?
A little tidbit. Yeah, we can do that. Yep. So again, it corrects primary subluxation, primaries, based on where the nervous system is, and there's specific spots for that are causing the tertiary and secondary subluxations, which you mostly get adjusted by, which I got adjusted by.
Which is fine. The same thing as fixation, which is just where you can slightly feel that the bones are somewhat out of alignment. Maybe causing that pain. But again, when you only correct secondary and tertiary, they're just going to continually pop up. Because where the primary is the root cause. And that's I think the biggest difference is the primary, where there's the actual subluxation, where the bone is putting pressure on that nerve,
exactly,
causing dysfunction between the brain and the body. When you correct that root cause, that's when it's like a game changer.
Exactly.
And that's what torque release technique,
and that's what it is
able to do.
Yeah. And that's what, and it was invented by Dr. Jay Holder and Dr. Tulski. And that's what Jay Holder and Dr. Tulski believed, is that they're like, let's go back to the root, what Dr. Dede said, it's on tone. All right. And what they did was, there was a huge research study done in Miami, and it was actually at the time, one of the largest human population research study done. And when we talk about research study, there's a lot of different studies that can be out there. Yeah. This one is a randomized, double-blinded with a placebo control. Basically, what that means. A lot of words
to mean it was
the real lot deal. Of words, right? Basically, it means that's the gold standard of research studies. Meaning, well, what does that mean? Well, that it works, right? Because it's randomized.
Yeah.
And the results that they found were amazing. And what they found was, with the population that they had, they were set in Exodus Treatment Center and paired alongside with some other things. The majority of them were cocaine addicts. But what they found was that they had 100% improvement in quality of life, also reduction in stress, anxiety, and depression. It was actually measured. I wrote this down because I'm never going to remember. I wouldn't remember how to say it unless I did. But I called a Spielberger Stats Anxiety Test. And it's actually measured. And if you're interested in that, you can go back and look at it. And what they found is that the placebo group pretty much stayed the same. I went down a little bit, but the people that received torque release techniques, subluxation-based chiropractic care, dramatically dropped.
Yeah.
And it was 100% improvement, which is, and if you know anything about, addictionology or research stuff, the results like that aren't as high is what this produced.
Yeah.
And the reason that happened is because, again, it was on tone. Right? It was based on tone. And again, the name torque release technique, if we break that down, is based on, the name reflects the torsion or distortion of tension of the spinal cord.
Yeah.
And what we talked about last time is, like, a great example for that is a guitar. And it's the same concept. When you play a guitar, there are tuning pegs, right? That when you change that tension, drastically changes what the instrument plays. You don't adjust it in the middle. That might affect something, but it's not affecting the tone that is being played.
Yeah.
Right? And in our body, our nervous system is wired the same way. And so what Dr. Holder and Dr. Tulski found is that there's specific areas in our spinal column that have direct attachments. They're called dural attachments to the spinal cord, meaning that when we adjust those segments, they have a greater impact to help that state of well-being, right? And that communication from brain to body be better. So,
i.e. primary.
Exactly. Yeah, and see, also through this, I want you to help interpret
what you're saying.
What I'm saying. Yes.
I think you're doing great.
Think you're doing good? Cool.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, so that's the primary subluxation.
But the cool and the great thing about it is that Dr. Holder and Dr. Tulski, they give credit where credit is due. This is built on the foundation of chiropractic, and torque release technique is built on many techniques. Torque release technique is an umbrella, if you will, that is comprised of many techniques.
And I mean, you can't improve something without the foundation.
No.
And so I think that's one thing they do really well is, like, they're never bashing other chiropractic techniques when talking about torque release technique, because I mean, chiropractic at the foundation works. And so, what technique you choose to do is a personal choice. And so we're just kind of breaking down why we choose to do torque release technique.
Totally. And I just want to say that the techniques, because I know we're in Asheville and there's a lot of people that know about chiropractic techniques. So there's a lot of them that are built. So one is Palmer or upper cervical, great technique. DNFT, SOT, sacrooccipital technique. Toughness, Thompson, Logan.
These are all the
NSA.
techniques that are...
Yeah, all of these are... So what they did is they took the best analysis from these and turned it into one.
Yep.
Which is awesome. So
all these have a certain component of them that go into torque release technique.
And that's the beautiful thing, though. These are all beautiful techniques, and when you're getting adjusted by torque release, you're getting components of all of them.
And I think this is interesting because a lot of times in our practice, we'll have people come in and get adjusted, and they'll say, oh, this is really similar to this technique that I've had done, or, oh, you do the same thing as this doctor who does this technique. And, you know, it's neat that people are recognizing that there are all these similar components to it, but then we get to educate them on what torque release technique actually is, and how it's a combination of all this stuff.
And and you're right, it is cool. Actually, like this week, someone was like, oh, like you're doing like NSA or like a part of NSA, and I was like, you're so right. Or they're like, you're doing a part of like Palmer. I'm like, it's very exciting. But that's what it is. It's just it's a software upgrade to everything. And even actually, one of the founder of Diversified, Dr. Holder, talked about this, how he came to one of his seminars when Dr. Holder first came out with torque release technique, and he took that and applied it. Didn't change Diversified or the way that he adjusted necessarily, but he used the analysis and just had absolute praise.
Because it's a powerful analysis, because again, it's locating primary areas of nerve interference as opposed to secondary or fixation.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing we look at, and as part of the technique is based on finding those primaries. So there's certain protocols that we look at as we adjust to find those, and specific spots that we know, like I was talking about those tuning pegs, where there's direct dural attachment to the spinal cord. Occiput, C2 and 3, could be 3, 5, sacrum, right? And all S2 through 4, and then the coccyx. Those are the tuning pegs that we adjust. And they're very powerful because they have direct dural attachment.
I get asked a lot, well, what exactly are Dr. Jan and Dr. Aaron doing? What are they doing? And I say, they are trained proficient in locating the primary. I'm not trained proficient in it.
And that's one of the reasons that we're doing this, is because a lot of people are like, well, what is happening? Like, what are you seeing? Like, what?
And I think you can understand the concept of torque release technique without having to understand specifically what the doctor is doing in the analysis. Because once you understand the concept of it, that they're going after the primary areas of nerve interference, then you trust the process, because you know, you don't have to know exactly what it is that they're doing in the analysis.
Exactly. And so one of the cool things too, the way that we adjust is we use an instrument. We talked about this, called the integrator. And actually, I have this. Let me very quiet, gentle. Very gentle with it. But this is the integrator. This is what we adjust with. And again, we touched on this, but this is a very cool instrument, and it was actually designed specifically for that research study. Because what they found is that if they adjusted with their hand, it's not reproducible, and that you cannot generate the same.
Control the exact amount of mass you use every single time to use the exact same. You just can't do it. It's not reproducible.
It's not. And in a research study, that's pretty important, like to get the results, right? So you have to do that. Also, there's another instrument that a lot of people are familiar with called the activator. It's a great adjusting tool. That's probably the
biggest question I get, or is, this is an activator. This, like, no, and it's very similar to an activator, but there's a big drastic difference.
An activator is trigger loaded, meaning that when you load it or when you press, the trigger fires that.
So you're controlling when the impulse goes in.
Exactly, from outside to in. But this is pressure loaded. And actually, it was such a difference. The whole study was built around the activator. And what they found is that the activator, because it wasn't reproducible, skewed the study 300%.
Yeah, it's pretty drastic.
Pretty drastic. Yeah. So, and I remember, and Dr. Holder talking about this, he was very upset because all his life's work was in this. And he was like, so what he found is he actually watched a movie, and he saw a guy stepping on a landmine in a movie, and he was in his brain, and it clicked. And what he found is that when that guy stepped, that when the pressure applied, it's going to fire the same way every time, regardless. So then they invented this beautiful tool, the integrator, and it's amazing. So it's a pressure loaded instrument, fires the exact same way every single time. Oh, it just sounds good.
I'll be your guinea pig.
You'll be my guinea pig. Cool. But again, we apply right on that segment that's misaligned, and boom. Impulse. And the cool thing about it is people can be like, maybe an objection that we hear are like, well, it's like how you're not using a lot of mass. All right. Well, physics 101, force equals mass times acceleration. Period. So instead of using a lot of mass, we're using a lot of acceleration, right? And we're being much more specific to get on that segment. And also really important, it fires at 1/10,000th of a second, right? The speed at which the brain is communicating with the body. And also subluxations are firing at something called, or it's at 64 hertz, right? And that's important because our nerves fire at intervals of 5 hertz. So subluxation wants to live. Dis-ease wants to live. Think about cancer. Cancer just doesn't just stay there, it grows. Subluxation is the same thing. And our job is to remove it. And that's why we call it a silent killer, because you don't know it's there. So our job is to correct primaries with that, to restore the communication that should be there, to allow your expression, to allow your nervous system to function properly, to allow the self-regulating, self-healing the way you're designed to be.
I mean, I think that's like, you know, once we kind of go over in our office, like the integrator, that's where people it starts to kind of click, you know, because it's the pressure applied, it's the speed at which it fires, it's the fact that it's reproducible. And then you didn't even talk about the torque component, but that's another big component of it, is that the bones can misalign
in a certain way.
And the integrator having a torque component can put the bone back exactly where it needs to go.
Absolutely.
So it's just, you know, not that our hands aren't.
And there are times where I use my hands.
Not that our hands aren't effective for adjustments, but it's just not as specific. And I think that's the biggest thing that I always stress, is that this technique is so specific, because you need a very specific adjustment. You're going to need a different adjustment than somebody else might need. You're going to need a different amount of mass than somebody else might need to move the bone, because your body is different than somebody else's body. And we just don't know exactly how much mass we need to use, how much speed we need to use. But this bad boy knows. And so, you know, that was the game changer for Dr. Holder in the study when he invented the integrator. That was it. It was, it took off because it was so reproducible and it was so specific.
And another cool thing that's I find fascinating is, if we look at the integrator, if you look at the tip right here. So again, based off traditional chiropractic, because chiropractic works. When you deliver a manual adjustment, you use this bone right here called the piezoform as a move that you do. This tip was actually developed after they took the densities of 1,500 different piezoforms and made that, so that way your body, right, is that hands-on, that chiropractic that we broke down. So it's the same thing. And I just want to briefly touch on this, because I think this is, and you can, you know, help navigate this, but I think this is important because we talk about research and all that. So statistical analysis. So the way that we find these primaries, that's what it is based on. Statistical analysis of what is most likely misaligned, right? And that's what's great about this technique, is that we can get super powerful results, but also quickly, right? To get you in and out of here, back to your life, because you don't want to be here for 4 hours. As much as we could hang out, right?
Some people would have been here for 4 hours.
Right. But so the way I like to describe that is, let's say you have 2 die. Let's say you're playing a board game, right? There are only a certain amount of ways that you can roll a certain number, and that's it, right? So example, how many ways can you roll a 2?
I don't.
Oh, don't ask you. Okay.
1?
Yeah. I could ask them, but no one's going to answer. Right? 1 way. How many ways can you roll a 12?
A lot.
No.
Oh.
1 way. Right? But think 6 plus 6,
6
right? Because the max you have is 6, right?
Oh.
So how many ways can you roll 7? 3 ways. But what I'm saying is there's a fixed number, right? So you can only get that product.
You quizzed me and I failed.
That's okay.
You didn't coax me before.
I didn't, but that's okay, because I want you to see that too, though. All right. Our body works the same way. There are 24 vertebrae.
Yeah.
They can only move certain directions. Each one only has a certain amount of ligaments connected to it, right? And again, those dural attachment spots. So what this technique is based on is statistical analysis of where most likely those areas have misaligned to find the primary. So there's no guessing. We're not just basing it on fixation. We're doing neurological analysis to find those primaries. And that's the difference, right? Combined with, you know, the integrator and all that stuff. But it's amazing.
Yeah. TRT.
TRT. I'm not allowed to say that anymore. But that's what we do.
Yep.
So thank you for listening today for episode 3.
Yeah.
We
hope this was informative and answers kind of some questions just about, you know, chiropractic and how there's a ton of different techniques in chiropractic. You know, again, all chiropractic works. The foundation is that traditional chiropractic. And, you know, TRT is a phenomenal technique because it's built on that foundation.
Exactly.
But again, the foundation of chiropractic is what's important. So definitely listen to episode 2, because in that we talked a lot about just the history behind chiropractic and what chiropractic is in general, the nervous system, everything like that. So that's a really good foundation. And then, you know, again, torque release technique, this is just an upgrade to the system. So that's why we choose to do it here in our office.
Yes.
But yeah, we're excited. Tune in next time for episode 4. We're going to keep talking about some exciting stuff.
Yes. And also, the best of W&C is currently going until April 30th. So we would appreciate
vote for your favorite things. And if one of your favorite things,
and that's the main thing, is it really supports local business.
Yeah.
There's a ton of great local businesses around here that are
Asheville, that's one of the best parts of living in Asheville is all of the businesses that we have here and just the way that we're able to support each other and build each other up. And so, you know, if you haven't already, definitely go on there and vote for all of your favorite businesses. Vote for your favorite breweries, your favorite shots, your favorite shops, your favorite restaurants, everything like that. Shots.
Your favorite shots.
Your favorite shots.
That's probably
good.
I think
category. There's favorite beer is a category. I know favorite Bloody Mary was a category. Not just favorite
beer, like broken down into like each IPA. Yeah. I mean, it's insane. But I was like, that's Asheville. So
all that to be said, go on and vote for your favorite stuff. And if you happen to be a practice member of our office, or you've been involved in our office at all, and you like what you're doing here, then you can vote for Dr. Dan for chiropractor.
I would appreciate your vote. Yes.
But you do have to, I think, vote for like 30 things for it to go through.
That's the deal.
But in Asheville, it's pretty easy to have 30 favorite things.
But honestly, it's fun. I went through and I got through like page 3.
I voted for Copper Crown 12 times for 12 different categories.
And Green Sage, since we're...
If you haven't been to Copper Crown and Green Sage.
We're Green Sage addicts. But yes. Anyway, go on there, vote. Cool. Thank you so much. And
we'll see you guys next time.
We'll see you next time.